Hello and welcome to Talk Ag to Me, the podcast dedicated to improving ag literacy around the globe. I'm your host, Brennan Black, and here we have Abby Prince.
Hi guys, what's up?
So we are back again for the third part of our Ag Mythbusters mini-series, which we just discussed. We're going to make it a 5-part mini-series just so you guys have something to watch over your summer break.
Lots of myths.
Yeah. And
They're everywhere.
There's plenty out there. So maybe, in the future we can bring it back and have another mini-series of Ag Mythbusters. But yeah, we're just going to have a 5-part mini-series. So this is part 3. You got 2 more coming out for you. So just real quick, if you guys find any more myths you want us to cover that we haven't covered already, make sure you send them to us because we're definitely going to need them to cover 5 parts. Yeah, comment, reach out to us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, wherever you prefer to do your commenting, and yeah, we'll be sure to cover those.
All right.
So we've got
Let's get started. We got a pretty good list
today. We got a pretty good list, so we're going to try and knock them all out today, hopefully. The list that we have.
Big challenge. We're going to do this.
So we're going to start off today with GMOs, and I'm going to throw this one to you because you're our Dairy Princess cow fanatic lady. So Jamie Schultz asked us to talk about GMO milk and myths surrounding it. So go ahead.
Myth. Immediately. So when I think of consumers like walking in the grocery store and they see like this product is not like contains like no GMOs. This is like no GMO, whatever.
Right.
Like you don't see that on a milk bottle or like a milk jug, and so it's kind of like, okay, does this contain GMOs? Does it not? So I don't know if that would be something like consumers really look at, that if they have seen the non-GMO label before and whatever product doesn't have that on there would potentially have GMOs.
Right.
Well, I can definitely help bust to that myth. There's no such thing as genetically modified milk. It is nature's most perfect food, and I've definitely said that before. I mean, they take it, the cows get milked, it sits in a bulk tank until the big milk truck comes and picks it up. It goes to the processing plant to get pasteurized, kill all like any bacteria that's in there, and any dirt that's in there, it cleans it all out, so then it's perfectly safe for you to drink, even though it is still safe for you to drink out of the bulk tank, but that's regardless.
That's a different topic.
Another tangent that I'm not going to include in my story. So it gets pasteurized, possibly homogenized, which just means it gets shaken up a whole bunch where the fat globules like mix in with the cream, so then you're not having fat and cream like separated. So it just mixes it all together. With whole milk though, sometimes it is fortified with vitamin D, which just means adding a vitamin. And so there's milk, there's water, and possibly a vitamin. Cool. That should be all of the ingredients on a milk package from what I know of. There might be another one, but that is a hard maybe. So, I mean, but out of all of those ingredients, I mean, vitamins aren't genetically modified because they don't have any DNA.
No.
Water is not genetically modified because it doesn't have DNA.
No.
And milk just comes out of the cow. It's just naturally produced. I mean, it's the same thing for a human. It's just naturally produced, and that's what it is.
Right.
And if that's all that's being done to your milk, there's nothing being genetically modified, so you don't have to worry about GMOs being in your milk. So that's my statement.
All right, very good. Well, that was a good explanation of non-genetically modified milk. And so that's a myth.
Busted.
So we're going to move on to organic. We only have a couple of these left, so I figure we might as well just knock them out.
All right, let's get it done.
We got one by Gary Ursry. Apologize. It says...
That's a cool name.
It is a cool name. It's like,
I'm sorry, that was cool.
Reminds me of bears.
What?
Because urso means bear in Latin.
I had no idea.
Oh.
I'm not the Latin fanatic.
So like the constellation, like the Big Dipper and Little Dipper, they're actually bears. It's Major Ursa and Minor Ursa, I think. So Big Bear, Little Bear.
Man, I learned something new today. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so bears, yeah, Urso. So anyways.
My mind is just...
So that made me think of bears. Anyways, his comment about myth we need to cover is that home remedies don't work as far as organic farming goes.
Interesting.
So I'm curious to the direction he was wanting us to take here.
Yeah, it's a little kind of out there.
It's a little ambiguous as to what the actual like idea was behind that. But my guess is that basically the only direction I could really take that in from my current knowledge bank on home remedies and organic farming is that the basically there's a misconception about organic farming and about organic food versus conventional food, that there's like this massive difference between the two, and that one is bad and one is good, whether you're a proponent of the conventional food or the organic food. Either way, the other one is bad. And so the idea I think he's going with, and I could be wrong about this, is that organic methods to solving issues are not necessarily bad if you follow the conventional route.
So if you like have a home remedy, like say you want to make your hair grow longer and you're going to use organic products over like conventional products then?
Right, that's what I would think, but I'm not, just because like, I mean, I know a lot of families that use organic home remedies for everything. Okay. And we've used some here, but I mean it's not a super common thing in your conventional household, I guess you could say. Okay. So it's kind of a difficult topic to attack from a personal point of view. I haven't done enough research on home remedies really.
Yeah, and I've never really, I guess maybe a couple home remedies in my life that I've used, but I mean nothing very like hardcore. That would be definitely something to ask like people who actually do home remedies on a very frequent basis. We are definitely not the people to talk about that because we don't use them.
Right.
So that would be something we could research and bring up maybe like in episode 4 or 5.
Right.
If we do that.
We can do some more research on that one and come back to it.
So we'll come back to you on that.
Yeah.
So don't fear.
Just wanted to let you know that we did get your comment. We're just not really sure how to take it yet. So we'll try to tackle that one again in the future. But one thing I think I can go off of that idea on, and again, I could be completely wrong about how he's coming at this, but on the idea that there's like something bad about organic food or something bad about conventional food is, first of all, there's obviously going to be a market for both forever. I mean, like those two are obviously going to have their uses in the world. You can't run a world off of just one or the other. They have to coexist. It's got to be both. And kind of to a point that you were telling me about, there's a lot of health advantages to using organic food for particular situations.
Yes.
So if you wanted to expand on that a little bit.
So being on this channel for probably about 1.5 years now or so, I'm not really sure how many of you know my personal life. My dad was diagnosed with cancer last February, and so after that took place, we really had to evaluate what we were actually eating because he had gastric cancer, so your diet really has to change.
Right.
I mean, it's not just like a thyroid or like breast cancer, where you have to change it a little bit, but my dad's diet was severely affected. So my mom was she took out like all the food we had in the pantry, was just kind of going through it, and we did have to switch some of our stuff over to organic because of added preservatives or chemicals or like food coloring.
Right.
And so that was definitely something to evaluate that organic food didn't have, that my dad could eat and just have a little bit easier digestion or just easier on his body as a whole.
Right.
And so that is definitely something to look into if you're in a special situation like that. I'm not sure if that is also used in like preventing cancer, possibly, but I mean,
sure. It could be.
Cancer sometimes is genetic.
Yeah.
It can just happen. I mean, that's what happened to my dad. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, not really sure if that would be in the preventing area, but that would be something to look into. But just if you are in a very special situation for those reasons, that is why we switched some of our food, not all of it, to organic.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, it's I think that we kind of touched on it a little bit in the previous episodes, but I think it's important to kind of put up a, Abby's favorite word, disclaimer, that we...
Love my word disclaimer, it's
that
cool.
we kind of put up a disclaimer that just because we usually take the conventional side of most arguments on the show doesn't mean that we're opposed to organic methods of agriculture.
Yeah.
Because we support all forms of agriculture. We just want to make sure that the misconceptions about conventional farming being bad is that they're eradicated.
Those are false, yeah.
So,
but just like you said earlier, we can't have just one for the whole planet. We have to have both.
Right, exactly. There's always going to be a market for both. There's always going to be a need for both. And so we just wanted
That was a good way to put that.
Yeah.
I really liked that.
So yeah, we're always just kind of want to clarify that. We're not against organic. We tend to try to take the side of conventional because not many people do.
Right.
So
yeah.
I got one more for organic that I wanted to cover real quick, and this is another one that I'm not... We might need to come back to it again because I haven't done a massive amount of research on it, but I do know very little about it.
All right.
And Brian Humphreys proposed the myth that organic products from China are truly organic. And to that, I would say... I don't know what the situation in China is like because I haven't done my research on China.
No idea.
I mean, I know very little about the trade, the trades,
Well,
situation.
the international food is just different.
Right, and so it's very difficult for me to make a comment on China's specifically on their organic agricultural production, but I do know that the regulations in the United States are a lot stricter than in most other countries as far as
That's the way
goes.
I was going to go with that.
So that'd be my, like I said, I don't know how China raises theirs, but that'd be my approach to that question. Is pretty much any country you go to is going to have different regulations and different standards for how their organic food is grown, and
all
so
food.
All food is grown. So it might not fill the same standards that our regulations do. So their version of organic might not exactly be ours.
Yeah.
So
well, and there's definitely a saying that's gone around for a long time. We have the safest food in the world because of the way the government regulates our food production. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Right. Yeah. So it's just I'll do a little bit more research on China for a future episode.
One to come back to.
Another one to come back to. But just that was kind of our current stance on it. It's just other countries have different ways of doing things, so they're probably gonna be different than us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right.
So moving on, we're gonna go to our next topic. I think we have one more for the environment, or maybe two more for the environment that I wanted to check in on. Actually, no, we're all done for the environment. Cool.
Dang.
We're going to move on to one that we actually haven't covered yet in all three parts. Oh, two parts.
Dude, we're slacking.
We are slacking. This one's only got two in it, so we'll probably hit one and then come back to the other one later, because I think it kind of ties into another piece we're going to go on to in a later part of it.
Sounds good to me.
But it has to do with workers in agriculture.
Ooh.
And so Brad McDonald proposes the myth that illegals only work in agriculture. And so that's a kind of a tough one to cover.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure exactly what we're supposed to bust about that, because obviously that's not true. I mean, there are other occupations that immigrants can fill, but a majority of them do work in agriculture.
It's
some
easy.
Way. It's one of the easiest because it's where the most jobs are.
Yeah.
Agriculture is always going to have jobs. We're always going to need people to work
Always.
in extreme conditions, and not a lot of people really want to. So
well, and if you think about it, like, you need people to help harvest crops.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that stuff is seasonal. So if you can only come over here for a 6-month period, that would be easy for you to do.
Exactly.
I mean, you got to have milkers on the dairy. You got to have people to go out, feed cows, feed pigs, feed whoever.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to get fed, processed, people at the processing plants. I mean, it's not necessarily just illegals in agriculture. Obviously, we know plenty of U.S. citizens who are working in agriculture, but I'd kind of like to take the stance. My dad, I wouldn't necessarily count him as an illegal. He was an immigrant here.
Right.
He was born in Holland, moved to Canada, then moved to SoCal, and he worked in agriculture. I mean, he built J&A Manufacturing, and then later on in his life, he got his U.S. citizenship, so now he's a U.S. citizen. That's just what it is. But like that, agriculture's not the only place, but I do think you're right that is the easiest way to go. There's the most jobs, and it's just the best for everyone. Work needs to be done that other people don't want to do.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what exactly, which I guess I didn't really specify, I'm not sure what exactly is harmful about this myth in terms of agriculture, because most of the myths have been harmful to agriculture in some way. This one doesn't seem necessarily harmful, it just kind of seems more of an ignorance thing. People just tend to think that illegals only work in ag.
Maybe they're too, other people are too good for it. Like, if they think, illegals, they work in ag, I don't want to work in ag.
Well, that's kind of what, be with them. That's kind of what my perspective on it was, as far as it being an issue, was that people have, this stigma that, it's illegals work in ag, so they don't want to do it, which I actually think the opposite is true. Illegals work in ag because no one wants to do it. I think that's kind of there's so many jobs available because the citizens here think that they're too good to go work out in the fields or feed the calves at 4 a.m. So the illegals come in and do it because they need the job and we need the workers, so we're gonna take them up on it because that's that's kind of
it's a win-win situation.
It really is
for the farmer and for the people that are coming here.
Right. So and that's to say no matter where they come from, we're if they come in and say, hey, we want to help work on your farm, we'll do whatever you need to do. Just
and majority of the time, unless you're a criminal, the farmer's probably pretty good about working with you and trying to give you a job.
Yeah, farmers are pretty, and they're very if they have a good worker, they're very undiscriminatory. They're like, hey, you work, you're coming with me. I need you. And
Well, and farmers know what it's like to struggle, and I know a lot of those people that do come over here are struggling, which is why they come here for work.
Right.
And so they get that.
Yeah, there's just a natural understanding of, life is hard, let's not make it harder on us kind of idea. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Help everyone else out.
Yeah. So yeah, and we have, like I said, we have one more in that category, but we're going to come back to it later because I have another part on that I kind of want to connect the dots to make it a little bit more interesting of a conversation.
Right.
So,
sounds good.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Actually, I think we might, I don't know if we'll wrap up that way or not, but we have kind of an interesting story here that I think that you wanted to talk about, and that's the Eagles.
I like to talk a lot. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So, let me see what her name was. Molly Henricks Watkins sent in this incredible story. It's just really, really long, so I didn't get to read through all of it. Abby read it, and she read most of it to me. And it's about a misconception regarding eagle egg shell thickness and chemicals and how they affect the shell thickness and how it's harming the eagle population and how it's all a misconception because of tampering in the experiment. So I'm going to let you explain it because you actually read it.
Okay.
So I was listening, but you understand it better than I did. So
okay. So I believe it started in like 1938. I'm pretty sure that was a specific year. If not, it was early 1900s, between 1900 and 1950. Roughly, there was a pesticide that came out. It's called
1943.
1943. Man, I was really close. All right, so 1943, there's this pesticide that comes out. It's called DDT, and the name is super duper long, and I don't remember what it stands for, but it was like, it took me like 5 seconds to say it. So it was a really long word. It's just a pesticide. And so these researchers took this pesticide and they were worried about the bald eagle population and that if this pesticide was possibly harming the egg shell, and thinking, these researchers, their hypothesis was that a DDT is being used to kill pests. If the bald eagle consumes any crop or food of any sort that has been covered in this pesticide, it will make the egg shells much thinner, and therefore the baby will not be produced because the eggshell is too thin to hold the baby. So they did this big old study, and the problem with it is that wasn't the only variable they adjusted. They also adjusted the calcium that was that the bird would intake. Yeah. So they added in DDT, they took down the calcium, and if you think about it, like when I was explaining this to Brendan, when you look at calcium as a whole, the reason why milk is so nutritious for you is because it has a lot of calcium, makes your bones and your teeth really strong. Right. So if you reduce calcium, that eggshell is really going to be thin and it's going to be weak. Yep. So it totally, the myth, I don't know if it was necessary, like if you would call it a myth, but anyways, when the research was done, it showed that if the bird was given DDT and obviously lower calcium, but like they kept that on the down low, that the eggshells would be weaker. Right. And so by 1972, the pesticide was banned in the U.S., so it's not in use anymore. But, I mean, if you look at it, they did it again. They did a recent study now that if you gave the bird DDT and kept the calcium level the same, oh my gosh, the eggshells, 80% of them, I'm pretty sure was the number, were strong. They were like regular, they were normal.
I think it was 80% hatch, which is actually a pretty significant hatch rate.
80% hatch.
And all of them were like a lot stronger than they would have been in the other study.
So it really goes to show that DDT helped them. Right. In a way. Yeah. I guess you could say, because that's not just going to be the calcium by itself. Right. So that was just a really cool, I really liked that myth, honestly, when I read it.
It was pretty interesting.
This is really long, but I'm gonna hold out. It's probably gonna be good. So I just thought it was very interesting.
Yeah. So when I first saw it, I was like, bald eagles, what the heck is going on? And
that's what I thought too.
I kind of skimmed it. I was like, it has something to do with chemicals. You know what? I'll read it later. And I was setting up the stuff for episode 2 when we were going to record. And Abby's like, I'm going to read through it real quick. You want me to read it out loud? I was like, yeah, go ahead. So I'm typing on some stuff and she's reading it. And I was like, okay, you can talk about that thing in the episode. Which I understand it, but it's just it
was a lot.
So So here's your word if you want to say it.
Okay, dichloral, diphenyl, trichloroethane.
She actually said it faster this time than last time.
It was a long word.
It was a long word.
And that was nice. It kind of broke it up into pieces.
Yeah,
for me.
I found a nice picture, which I don't know if it'll...
Oh, it's
It's not
glared.
going to show. Anyways.
You can look it up, DDT pesticide, and it
Yeah.
will show you the word. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I might even put it in the video
Practice.
if I remember.
Say that 5 times fast.
Right. So yeah. So that's our bald eagle story in a nutshell. Basically, the moral of the story: don't skew your data. Do your experiment properly.
Yes. Only adjust one variable, and if you're going to adjust 2, make sure that that is well known that you adjust both.
Right. And if you're going to ban an entire chemical based off of its effects on bald eagles,
A study.
in one study that was not retried for a long time,
They
then
might have done more studies on it. Honestly, like,
Maybe.
I think after one, they were like,
they had
we
to
should do it some more.
Yeah, they had to have seen if it.
But if they run the same like thesis every time with the same variables
Right.
being adjusted, then
yeah, it's not gonna.
all of your data is going to be skewed.
Right. So yeah, that's our.
Poor research.
Do your research. Do your experiments more properly.
But yeah, that was pretty cool. I
it
really
was
enjoyed
really
that.
cool. I thought those were pretty cool.
But that was all from one of the Facebook posts, right?
That was one of yes.
And it was by Molly.
It was Molly Henricks Watkins.
So go look at Molly's comment about the bald eagles.
And she posted a link with the actual article, so you guys can go read it. And
There you go.
I'm not sure. I'll put the link in the description if I remember. Hopefully I do. But yeah, so if you guys want to actually read the full article, it's there for you, or you can go
Thank
on.
you, Molly.
Yeah, you can actually go on our post on Facebook on the Mind Depends on Ag page, and you can find it on there too. So.
All right, that was good.
Yeah. So moving on.
Another myth.
We have another myth. We have many a myth.
Many a myth.
I
liked that. That was good.
We're gonna move on to animal rights because that's always a fun one.
Ooh.
And
So they're always like just common sense, but it's
you know
cool.
what? We're gonna combine these two, even though they're not technically related, but they kind of are because they both relate to the dairy industry, which tend to be where most of our animal rights questions come from. And
Yeah.
4 and 5, we're gonna have non-dairy related animal rights.
Yikes, I'm gonna have to do my homework.
We'll have some dairy, but we've covered almost all of the dairy stuff.
I agree. And
So-
a lot of my examples are dairy, so really
Yeah.
sorry about that, but it's what I know, and if I know it, I'm gonna
What do you expect from a dairy princess?
tell y'all. Dairy's my life.
Alright, so these two, both from Jamie Schultz actually. Jamie Schultz has been killing it.
Dude, she's got a lot of she must talk to a lot of people.
She's got some interesting,
I'm
some
impressed.
interesting myths. So one of them is pus/blood in milk. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this means at the. I would assume it doesn't mean on the shelf level, but if it does mean on the shelf level,
Probably
then,
right from the cow.
Right.
I would think. If it's animal rights, you're thinking
Yeah, that's true. That's
from the
true.
dairy. All right, so what's the other one before I jump on that?
It's male calves are immediately killed. So they're separate issues, but they're both regarding the dairy industry. So.
Gotcha. Okay, well I'm gonna hit the first one first.
Yeah, go ahead.
So pus and blood coming out with milk. All right, okay. So cows obviously get sick, just like any other animal and or insect on the earth.
Pretty much anything with an immune system. Gets
Pretty
sick.
much anything. It can all get sick.
Yeah.
Can trees get sick?
Trees can get sick.
Okay, so flipping anything that lives on this earth can get sick. So besides the rocks and the water in the ocean,
If it is alive, it can get sick.
it's gonna get sick. So when cows get sick, they get taken to a special area. They call it the hospital pen because it's a hospital for cows.
Correct.
So they kind of just chill in there. Their ration isn't really changed depending on what is wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
If they have something called milk fever, it means that they are low on calcium, so they get some more calcium added back into them.
Right.
Mastitis is definitely one of the more milk known infections that can happen. This can happen by getting dirt or any bacteria going through the teat and up into the udder can cause an infection. They have these things called somatic cells, which are pretty much like leukocytes. They go back down into the udder. They fight the infection just like in your body. They're all ready to go, and they're all, okay, there's a red light going off. We all got to go. So they go to the infected site. They get that all handled. While that's in the process, though, of getting fixed, dairy farmers can give their animals antibiotics to treat. Obviously, they have a voluntary waiting period. So if you give them antibiotics, say today, you can't just milk them to go into the bulk tank with everybody else's milk tomorrow. They definitely have a time that they have to wait So they take that milk and either they pasteurize it, feed it to calves so that it is safe for them to drink, or they just drop it down the drain.
Right.
So, sorry, this is a lot of... I have a lot of very good information, and it's kind of just very broad.
Oh, that's great.
So, when I think about mastitis is when you're... So you can force strip a cow, you just kind of squeeze her teat and you pull down, kind of like if you do it on your thumb. I did this for Dairy Princess. It was really cool. So, okay, so make like a thumbs down and you squeeze your thumb and you pull down. That's how you milk a cow.
Right.
So you do that in the beginning, you force strip them, and this is when you look at the milk to see if there's any like abnormalities with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point you could see milk that's kind of stringy or kind of clumpy, if it's like a yellowish color.
Yeah.
Obviously that means like, yeah, like this is not looking so hot.
Yeah, there's something wrong.
I've never heard of pus coming out. I'm sure there is probably something about that. Sometimes there is blood, but I mean that's very rare from what I know of. I've never personally seen it. So at that point they get taken out, they go to the hospital pen, they get milked there, and it just doesn't go to consumption. So
right.
There's nothing wrong with it. She's just sick. And so they get her better.
So yeah.
That's all that is.
The reason I gave you that one is because I had never heard of pus or blood coming out in milk. I've heard of blood.
I've heard of blood. Not really pus, though.
I never heard of pus coming out of milk, so it wasn't really an issue that I was familiar with, so I wasn't sure if maybe I was just not, like, I just hadn't seen it before. Because I've milked hospital pens, but only a couple times, so I wasn't sure if I just missed it or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that's, like Abby said, it's not a matter of anything that the farmer is doing to the cow or the cow being mistreated.
She's just sick.
She's just sick. Everyone gets sick. Everyone's got their own issues going on. It's just one of those things you have to just treat it and hope it gets better.
Yeah.
So moving on to male calves immediately being killed. Now this is a tough one.
Also wrong.
Yeah.
So I kind of think about this like when I showed dairy heifers, like I think like 2 of the 4 of them or 3 of them, like they had milk calves.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I can't keep them. I have no use for them. So I sell them back to the dairy. The dairy, they will raise them up until about 475 to 500 pounds. That's roughly the veal weight for calves. And so once they get to that weight, then they are slaughtered.
Right.
But then they just get some meat on their bones. But they really have no purpose. I mean, it's kind of like how we talked about with the artificial insemination.
Right.
Instead of using a natural service sire, we use artificial insemination. So unless they are like a top-notch animal, they're going to go to beef.
There's really no point in keeping them.
Because there's so much semen out there for farmers to buy, there's really no need to keep a bull around unless you absolutely want to have one. And that's just another animal to feed. So if you can make some money off of them at 500 pounds, then the farmer's going to do that, especially if money's tight.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I've got another thing to say on that. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, please. Go ahead.
I got another thing to say on that as well. On top of your... So I was going to actually ask you about veal calves and your, like, the...
That's my dairy bull knowledge.
Right. But, so yeah, so like Abby said, it's not like they pop out of the cow and they go straight to the butcher shop. Like they have to go through a process of being raised and grown until they're veal size. And I know some people that don't even like slaughter them at veal size. They'll actually fatten them up into a feeder steer until they're close to 1,000, 1,100 pounds and then sell them that way. Just depending on how the market's doing.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I actually had my brother-in-law did that for a while. He just took all of their bull calves and just fattened them up a lot until they're like 1,100 pounds and just sold them off just because the beef market was really good right then.
Gotcha.
And so he was able to make more money that way. But yeah, it doesn't... To me, it doesn't make sense, which I guess this goes for a lot of our animal rights questions. It just doesn't make sense why a farmer would kill a calf that small. You're not getting anything out of it at that age.
Seriously.
Like they have no meat on their bones. They have no real advantage to being slaughtered that young, besides just they're an inconvenience to have around.
Unless you seriously cannot afford the feed for one more animal, then you should not be in business.
No, exactly. But yeah, if you can't afford,
that's not the case. So.
Right.
That's just what it is.
Yeah, no, exactly. And on that same issue, and I've had that conversation before about how people get really mad about veal calves and about, male calves being killed on dairies and stuff because they're not, ideal for the dairy operation because males can't produce milk. So
their purpose is to breed. That's what they're built for.
Right. And so
breeder meat.
My argument is always, it's actually kind of funny. I've had people tell me that they are against sex semen because they're against AI.
Wow.
But they're also against males being killed immediately. I'm like, well, you can't have both. We're doing sex semen so we don't have more males that are killed. Well, that's not why, but it has a byproduct of having...
That is the purpose,
It has less males being killed.
That is one of the benefits.
Right.
There we go.
So,
Benefits of using sex semen.
Yeah, but so they got mad that we're killing male calves because we don't need them for anything, but they also get mad that we're forcing the cows to have female calves. It's like, do you want the male calves to die or not? Because we're telling you the solution. We're just going to make them all girls so that way they don't have to die. And then there's like, well, no, you can't do that. That's not natural. It's like, sorry. But, so, yeah, that just, kind of a side note. But, yeah, that's just one of the things that I've had to deal with before is people being upset about both of those things.
That's interesting.
So
yeah, you got to pick one or the other.
You have to pick one of it. You can't.
There's no right in the middle in that.
What we're going to do with a bunch of dairy bowls? You can't sit
on top of the fence. You're in between.
Right. What are we going to do with a bunch of dairy bowls? Like, go walk out into the pasture full of dairy bowls and tell me you're having a good time. Like, it's not going to happen. So,
I don't know.
Anyways, back to our episode. We actually have, from what I can tell, and I'm looking through my list right now for any more, I think we only have one real conversation left.
Wow.
And it's a combination of a couple different comments.
Okay.
So it's going to be kind of an interesting one.
All right.
And it goes back to our overarching theme of, farmers are bad.
Not this again.
Our favorite.
Farmers are not bad. They are so good.
So I think this will be a good way to wrap up the episode because we're already getting close to our episode time. We actually covered all of them. I'm kind of proud of us because we were able to get a lot done in our amount of time. So I hope you guys all enjoyed and tune into the next one and give us more myths if you can find any.
Please, this is so much fun. I love doing this.
And so yeah, after this main series is over, maybe we'll bring it back one day. You never know. So find some more myths for us. But that's all I've got. I think
that's all I have. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, thank all of you so much for listening. And don't forget, if you ate today, thank a farmer.